Hey, Mr. Admiral Cotton's dad, sir. Can I have a minute?
You may.
I learned some new skills and I want to show you.
Well, that is a little bit more time-consuming than I was. You're doing it anyways.
See, look at me go, and then I'm so sorry.
This is when you remove the knife.
I'm scared too. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Sunbreakers of all ages. How fares the hunt? The only acceptable answer is gloriously. And you know what else is glorious? The sheer amount of new armor skills put into Sunbreak for us to make all sorts of wonderful, unique, niche, powerful, and above all fun builds. Yes, we have ourselves 15 new skills to play with, which is massive, which honestly I think takes the crown for the most new skills in a Monster Hunter game ever if we ignore armor set bonuses as a skill. In any case, it is really wonderful, but it's also a lot. So what I thought I'd do today is go over every single one of them and give you a kind of basic lowdown on how it works, so you can start thinking those wonderful thoughts about how best to use it, and if you indeed want to. Spoiler alert. You want to. And of course, as we get deeper down the list of monsters towards skills from more endgame creatures, well, spoilers will be there. But apart from warning you now, I will also warn you later in the video, so don't worry about accidentally seeing anything you may not want to at this stage. We will go through the 11 skills from monsters that have been revealed, and then the 4 skills from monsters that haven't, and you will again get that warning. Let's do this thing.
My work here is done.
Yes, little Spiribird, our first new skill is your call. This is wonderful. Every minute or so, a Spiribird will be called to you and you'll get its permanent Petal Ace upgrade. That is lovely, and essentially means that you just passively get appreciably stronger the longer a hunt goes on. It's not crazy, but for a single rank of a skill, that's very nice. Sadly, not on decorations, at least not that I've seen, but it is on talismans and Garangome armor and a few others too, but it just is a really cool potent passive to just kind of shove on. Especially when combined with the Rampage double Spiribird value, then you can really start getting some returns. Next up then, Charge Master! This is a really interesting skill. It gives you more element damage on charged attacks. And as you might imagine, that kind of makes you look at Greatsword and go, maybe elemental grit. No, it doesn't. Well, it might do. No, it's not the most potent increase. We get like 15 extra damage between having it and having it not on the little bit of dragon that's on the Malzeno Greatsword, but of course this is a very limited test with a one specific move, and the potential is so much more. In any case, it is a nice option to encourage a more elemental playstyle on weapons with charge attacks that otherwise may not use them, and is definitely a welcome addition. Oh, and if I could quickly mention, one of the skills I would love to test if you guys have is your ability to annihilate the like button and subscribe and hit the bell for more of your Sunbreak needs, as we cover literally everything you could ever want covered in the entirety of this game. I don't know, can you do it? Can you? I'll continue now. Then we get Grinder S, which is a fittingly Shogun-esque skill in that when you sharpen your weapon and it goes up by 3 colors, or 2 colors on the higher ranks, you actually get an increase to your sharpness value. Well, what does that mean? Well, for example, purple sharpness is times 1.39 your damage, or a 39% damage increase. Well, what this does when you meet the criteria of the sharpen increases that 39 to a higher number. And obviously that's kind of cool because sharpness value also affects element attack too, so that's in there. And it's a nice little bonus for, well, essentially forgetting to keep on top of your sharpening. And there are a few weapons with lots of purple but tiny amounts of white that you can quickly chew through, sharpen back up with this, and get a little boost. So definitely interesting. Though that said, a special shout out here should go to Ibushi, which goes from straight purple to blue. And if you resharpen that that back, you've not technically sharpened back up 2 levels of sharpness, but you have gone 2 levels of sharpness, blue to purple. So even though the weapon doesn't have any white, you still activate Grinder, which actually makes Ibushi a really potent choice, and I'm sure will be very good for quite a few weapons. It is about a 10% damage increase, so this is definitely worth keeping an eye on. Then we have Tune Up, which is a new skill for bowguns, and I will let you read it, because I'm not a bowgunner, and do not have really much conception over how good or good not this is, so I'll just see if you get excited or not. And not to redirect you or anything, but Redirection! Yes, Lunagaron's skill! And of course it's on talismans, and a few other armors, and it's just a really nice utility skill. It gives you a auto dodge, kind of like Valor Sheathing when you do your switch skill scroll swap, and you also get a bit of Y-Bug recovery for your troubles too. Basically just gives you a constant free get out of jail card, and yeah, really, really nice. Then we have Chain Crit from Mr. Dun Dun Dun! And of course you can get this on talismans and a few other armor pieces too, and it's really, 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 really good. This is just a skill that basically is going to pop up on essentially all of the faster hitting weapons. If you can find an efficient source of it, you gain just a good chunk of damage from simply attacking the monster, and then if you get 5 attacks in quick enough succession, it triples the potency of the skill. Plus 15 raw, for example, when you get that 5 hits, and considering that'll essentially be up constantly on something like Dual Blades, yeah, that's just a really, really nice little bonus to have, especially taking the extra element into consideration too. Then we have Foray from Espinas and from Frontier. This is a really, really neat, potent new skill. This gives you a load of raw and 20% affinity when you're attacking a monster that is afflicted by something. So either paralysis or poison, or one of the various elemental blights that you can cover them in when you throw toads at them, and a few other methods too, like Wyvern Ride monster attacks. Basically, the main thing here is poison, as that's the most constantly applicable status you can put on a monster, and while the monster is suffering from said poison, you get a huge power spike. 15 raw and 20% affinity for 3 ranks of a skill is no joke, and indeed this is a very, very similar skill to a skill in Frontier. In fact, it basically is just that skill rebalanced and retooled for mainline Monster Hunter that makes you do 1 billion more damage when the monster is suffering from poison. This was massively meta in Frontier because you combined it with a skill that let you apply status every hit instead of every 3rd hit. Sadly, we don't have that one, so it won't be quite as oppressive here, but it is definitely impressive here, and very much one to consider if you are at all a big user of Endemic Life, or indeed want to run a poison build. Is it strong enough to use poison for? Perhaps not, but if a very good weapon happens to also have poison, well then it suddenly becomes a very, very solid choice. And even then, just going maximum poison attack up, extending poison, and just going full in on the toxic is a really interesting build, even if it might not be tippy-top meta, and that's the thing that Sunbreak's really doing, giving us so many interesting builds that are still powerful enough that it's fine to use them over your basic attack and weakness exploit. Then we move into Coalescence from Mr. Gormagala. This is very simple. You recover from a negative status on you, and then you get a bonus to your raw, to your element, to your status build-up for a good long while. It's from Iceborne, and indeed we all know this one, and yes, it does proc even if you recover from something a bit more abstract like being webbed, so it's a very, very useful skill to have, especially if you combine it with a skill later on, or something like the give yourself Hellfire Blight, Hellfire Cloak, as yes, that counts as recovering from a status too. Then we have Bladescale Hone from Seregios. This is a skill basically based on a passive that he always used to have, and that is to roll and get sharpness back. In this case, it's also affecting your bowgun ammo, refilling it, and indeed giving you a boost to close range coating, but it requires you to dodge roll through an attack, and is a 3 rank skill. But at rank 3 it happens all of the time, and basically It's actually really effective. You get a massive chunk of sharpness, and this on basically means you will never have to sharpen because you will always passively roll through enough attacks to kind of perpetually power it, which is really neat. Then we have Wall Runner Boost, also from Seregios. Basically, while wall running, your wire bugs recharge a lot faster. My strong arm stance went from a 10-second recharge to an 8-second recharge while wall running, which, you know, is decent. 20% increase, and especially as not all of the wire bug recharge was done on the wall, if you can work this in, then you might have a nice time. It's a gimmicky skill, but hey, at least it's fun. Then we have Bloodrite from Malzano, who is a very, very strong armor set just in general. Again, the best singular armor set in the game. If you were just going to force yourself to just wear 5 pieces of a single monster, it's undoubtedly this is the choice. But in any case, Bloodrite basically means at max rank, you heal 10% of the damage you do to a broken part. That is great, especially combined with Blood Blight on you. Then you're healing double if you're attacking a broken part, and it lets you just essentially ignore health potions. It is a more potent health augment, but with the condition of requiring broken parts, and I cannot exaggerate enough that this genuinely is a damage increasing skill because it lets you be much more aggressive, have much more uptime, and spend a lot less time drinking potions instead of stabbing the monster. 10 out of 10, one of the best new skills in the game, and heavily worth investing in. Now, spoiler warnings! Spoiler warnings! Or at least a mild spoiler warning. We're about to look at the 3 new armor skills from the 3 more late game monsters that were revealed just before release, but because they were just before release, I at least want to give you a chance to look away if you don't want to see them quite yet. For now then, Bloodlust. From Shagaru Magala, yes, Papagor is here, and he is giving us something very fun to play with. This, like Hellfire Cloak, will periodically give you Frenzy while in combat with a monster. Not just while it's enraged, but generally while in combat with it. And while frenzied up, you get more attack, you get evade window, and you get stamina use reduced. That is very potent. Yes, you're slowly taking damage with the frenzy, but the gain is definitely worth it. And then if you beat the frenzy, get enough attacks in, make it your own, well, then you get a huge boost to affinity, even stronger than the usual boost to affinity you get from beating the frenzy. Basically, this skill, combined with Coalescence, combined with Resuscitate, it's no coincidence that's on his armor too, basically makes you into a status powerhouse self-blighting machine of death, and that's really excellent. Genuinely, this is a really worthwhile investigating potent skill, because having Frenzy is really not that much of a detriment, and this ensures that you are permanently being buffed by it, and that's really, really neat. Very much one to watch. Then we have ourselves Furious from, well, the monkey of the same name. You get a huge defensive boost while on Red Scroll, and then while attacking in Red Scroll, you build up that furious energy until you are veritably steaming with anger. Then when you swap to your Blue Scroll, you get infinite stamina, and on level 3 this feels like it lasts forever. Imagine the damage dual blades and bow can do with infinite stamina for like a minute. Basically, it's Mega Dash Juice on steroids with an activation cost, and while the pieces of armor that come with it aren't the best, they're certainly not bad, and the payoff here is massive. This is very much a watch this space skill, and one very much worth experimenting with and building around, because, well, let's be honest, having infinite stamina that long is going to lead to some silly, broken, nutty, cuckoo banana things. Finally then, I want to reiterate an even bigger of a spoiler warning. We're gonna go for the new skill that the final monster you unlock will give you. And Mail of Hellfire. Yes, indeed. This is as simple as you have the skill equipped and it takes effect. It is passive. It gives you a huge increase to your raw, and by huge I mean 25 with all 3 pieces, 15 from piece 1 and an extra 5 from piece 2 and 3, and the cost of which is you lose defense and resistances. It's essentially a 1-to-1 trade-off, free damage for equipping it, free potent damage for equipping it, but you're going to get hurt a lot more. It's really that simple. Not the most interesting of skills, but certainly one that's numerically interesting, and very much also watch the space one, as the armor piece pieces that give it are quite good. Alright, here is your big spoiler warning, because we're about to look at the armor skill of the final boss, and that one certainly is a big deal. So, without further ado, let's, well, do. Then we get our final boss, Guys Magorm, and his armor set comes with Dereliction. This is another really interesting new skill. Basically, what scroll you're on will give you a different buff. If you're on the blue scroll, you will get plus 25 raw, which is massive, and it will then increase to plus 35 raw over time as you stay in the scroll. This is represented by little curios flying around you, the bat leeches, and curio 1 is worth 25, and then each extra curio that props up is worth that extra 5. The only catch is, well, you're constantly having your health drained by them. So yes, you must feed your babies. However, this is more than worth it for that massive gain of raw. And if you're on red scroll, you get an equally strong gain both in your element and status. Essentially, you just choose which scroll is the best for your build and stick to it. This encourages not scroll switching. It encourages you choosing a good loadout and then just using it. And if you're a weapon like Greatsword, where that's basically what you'll be doing, no real need to switch skills often at all, or basically any time, honestly, with the new best way to play. This is really nice. And the constant damage is red health, which plays into something like Resentment, which is also a very strong skill to have passively 100% uptime on, which this does. It's very, very good. On top of that, you can consume 2 of the curios, or at least up to 2 of them, for a massive emergency on-demand heal with a scroll swap. So yeah, it does come with a bit of recovery as well. Very fun, very neat, and very much one of the best skills in the game now. So there you go, guys. A very quick, very 101, not super intensey mathy, but a very basic introduction to all 15 new skills and how they work. I hope you found this enjoyable, and I hope you've seen a couple that you now want to work towards and actually, well, see if you can make quite the build with. It would seem that everything Elder Dragon and up isn't actually available on talismans, which is a little bit of a shame, and a lot of them aren't decorations either, so we are going to be forced into properly mix and matching some armor to get some of these, which isn't a bad thing. Honestly, it's nice to have to make those decisions. But of course, build guides and all of that will be coming very soon. For now then, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, hit the bell, and don't miss future Sunbreak goodliness. Consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.